Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with us, well, we're glad you're here. Each Wednesday, I'm here with you talking to myself about things that weigh on my mind and heart, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust both our perspectives as you listen. The more people I meet and the more places I go, the more I realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of your life that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at me are four habits. Friends, I don't know if you had the same raising I did when I was coming up. It was always so important that I cleared my plate whenever I ate, cleaned it. You made sure that everything that was on the plate got eaten. You didn't want to waste any food. If y'all are anything like me or my upbringing or my background or raising, it was almost a sin to waste food. Not here to argue that point. I still feel very strongly on this topic. I do not enjoy wasting food. It does not make me feel good at all. It's one of those things too where it can be a help to make sure I don't waste any food. I want to be as efficient as possible. Gosh knows, as expensive as groceries are right now, it hurts to waste anything. Okay. I think we can all agree on that topic. Something I do want to sort of put in the back of our minds, though, is that literally everything we do is in some shape, form, or fashion a result of a habit. Okay. And what we're doing today is exploring those just a little bit more closely, because I think that as we get closer and closer to the end of the year or closer and closer to the beginning of a new year, we want to put some more programs in place, some systems in that are going to make sure that the habits that we are using are those that are moving us farther along our journey. Okay. And we're also going to be exploring just a little bit closely about some of the habits that we've got that maybe are not working in our favor and how we can sort of adjust those. It really takes so little adjustment and tweaking to make these habits something that can be beneficial, that can get us closer to the goals that we want. And I love that for us. I really do, especially for me. I'm very much a creature of habit. Whenever I go back to a new city or a city that I love that was once new and now I get to revisit, I want to go back to places that I remember loving the first time. And we've talked about this before, how whenever you go back, sometimes the memory that you have of it is not accurate to the depiction that it presents today. And we got to be careful with that. It's one of those things where we want to revisit old haunts to sort of stir that feeling of nostalgia. We also want to mix in a lot of new experiences so that we don't always rely on memories of places we visited to make a good visit now in the present. Along those same lines, I want to make sure that the habits that I'm following continue to serve. A habit that I have of my childhood is cleaning my plate. That is something that I did. I was a very hefty youngster, just so we're clear. It's just one of those things. My mother's an incredible cook, always has been. Whenever you combine that quality of sustenance as well as the habit of cleaning a plate, whether that would be the first, second, or third helping, that can lead to unhealthy lifestyle choices. And you just need to continue to assess these things. So, in an effort to do that, what I want to do is say, okay, let's continue to look and ask these kinds of things. Habits can lead to unhealthy lifestyles. Great. Cleaning a plate, even if the quality of the cuisine is not necessarily up to a standard or par that you want. That's something I've been noticing in my own life a lot lately. I like to eat, period, full stop. We've reached the end of that statement. I also like to be in good shape. I think it's important for me to continue to work hard in the gym, to get my steps in, to drink enough water, to get enough rest, these kind of things, so that my fitness is to a point where it makes me happy, where it continues to make me feel proud and healthy and strong. We all continue to age day by day if we are lucky. And as I get older, I notice that some of my structures are not necessarily as hardy as they used to be, meaning these knees, gosh, y'all help. I got down and gritty and grindy at a wedding in Northern Ireland with some very good friends of mine and tweaked the absolute bejesus out of this right knee, so much so that I had to go to the doctor and get it checked out. Great. Okay, so what does that mean? That means, hey, you need to take it easy a little bit, or I need to prepare better. I need to put a brace on that knee whenever I want to get just ugly nasty with it. Great. Super. Habits continue to influence our outcomes. Okay. I do a lot of traveling. That's where I choose to spend a lot of my money and my time, and that's wonderful. It's something that I love to do, and it makes me feel like a bigger, better, stronger human being. I learn a lot from my travels. I learn more about people all over the world by traveling, and I love that information to influence and inform my opinions and my lifestyle. Okay? And sometimes I go to a place and I will get a plate full of something that just does not serve. It is not delicious. It is not helpful. I know the flavors and the combinations of savories and sweets and that are not necessarily what I want in my body, okay? And I have a habit ingrained in me from childhood that says clean your plate. Okay. In this instance, what wins? Is it the adult that knows that what's on the plate is not going to serve? Or is it that habit that I just default to? Because also, feeling full is a very satisfying sensation. I know it seems so simple, right? It's like, I love a full belly. I love the way that feels. People tell me, like, James, if you want to reach your fitness goals, you need to push away from the table before your body reaches that full sensation. Because the chances are it's going to take just a hot second for your belly to catch up with your brain, or your brain to catch up with your belly, however you want to look at it. And you're going to keep eating, and eventually you're going to feel full and miserable. Yes. And there's a part of me that notes that misery as being a full situation. You don't have to feed yourself until you're miserable to be full, to be sated. Okay. Great. Knowing that and actually acting on that are very different, okay? For me, as a hefty childhood person, it's difficult for me to push away from the table at certain times, even though I know that I've probably reached my full line because there's still food on the plate. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that whenever I reach a point where I know my intellect will trigger, "Hey, you need to stop," because you've probably eaten enough food that if you give it a moment for the sensation to reach your brain from your belly, you're gonna be fine. Or if I've gotten to a point in my life where I feel like I could use just a few less calories so that I can get myself into a fitness area that I'd prefer to be in, also great. Maybe you want to take that down to maybe instead of 75% down to 65%. What does that feel like? You're at 2/3 right about now. And then you wanna leave just a little bit of space so you can, contract your belly, how much it'll hold, so that you can reach that new goal because perhaps your costumes are fitting a little tighter than normal. Perhaps your favorite pair of trousers is giving you just a little bit more muffin top than you're used to seeing, and you wanna slow that down. I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm saying that what I've done is set a goal for myself, and in order to reach it, I'm gonna have to adjust that intake in order to reach the goal. Okay, great. So, what does that mean? That means that we have to continue to look at and assess what it is we want out of our lives and adjust our habits in order to meet them. That's all. That's really all there is to it. And I get frustrated and I feel as though I'm going to starve to death, or I feel as though I'm wasting food, or any number of these excuses that I make in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, whatever. And I have to continually look at those kind of things. And yes, it is a lot of effort. It is initially. At the beginning, that feels like a lot of work. But then I adjust my habits, and what it does is it kind of shifts me into the new gear so that the new goal can be reached by the new habits or the adjusted habits that I've made for myself. We're on tour right now. I'm in Tampa, and last night we went to one of our cast members' grandma's houses. And I'll tell you this right now, I would rather chew live bumblebees or aluminum foil than disappoint anybody's grandma by not taking seconds and having two desserts at the end of the meal. We walk in there, and my gosh, it smells like my childhood, which automatically puts me into that husky pair of jeans and those Buster Browns that were the only pair of shoes in the Southeast that would fit these little fat feet. But I don't remember that part. What I remember is feeling loved and welcome and warm. And part of that sensation and part of that emotion is feeling myself stupid by going back for seconds, then having two desserts. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Not a morsel. Because grandma fed me like what I remember to be home. And that was wonderful. But now today, I make adjustments in my habits because I will perhaps fast until lunch or maybe till 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I'll have black coffee and a lot of water. I'll up my cardio for the day. I'll lift heavier. Any number of things that I can do to make sure that I get myself back on the track to reaching the goals that I've set for myself. We're going to Rio de Janeiro in February. I'm going with two very fit friends of mine, and though comparison is the thief of joy, I want to make sure that I feel strong and vital and healthy whenever we're on the beach in Brazil. Gosh, yeah, of course I do. And if I go ahead and make those adjustments to my habits now in October, months down the road, by the time we reach the time to take off, man, I'm going to be just absolutely jacked up. I brought in a buddy of mine to help me with this. I've got on a new fitness program with him. He's helping me with my nutrition. He's helping me with my lifting. These are new habits that I have employed. Now, am I always watching what I eat to make sure that I make healthy choices? Sure. Am I always in the gym because I love the way that I feel and look after absolutely smashing a lifting session? Yes. Does it always help to have other people in there with me who are holding me accountable, who are watching what I'm doing and not being like oppressive about it, but continue to remind me of why we're doing this? Yes, absolutely. And I think that's wonderful. I think that these are all tools in our arsenal, not weapons, because I don't like thinking about that kind of thing. Weapon implies that somebody's getting hurt. And that's not what we're about. What we're doing is I've got tools in my shed, in my belt, in my any number of things for a metaphor that are going to continue to move me toward my priorities. And I continue to look at these things and I'm just like, okay, okay, okay. Now this is what I'm about to share with y'all is not a brag. What it is just it's it's a it's an accomplishment and I'm really proud of it, but I don't want to boast. What I want to do is say I have 4 pieces of small poster board in my office in my apartment in Las Vegas. And one of them is a fitness goal, and it's a picture of me in 2016 wearing nothing but red briefs, and I am jacked. And I love it. It's great. Like you can see my six pack, like I still have muscles. I'm not skinny, I'm just lean, and I love it. And that's one of the pictures in there. Another is a picture of a tiny house, and it is waterside. And I know I've made a list of things that I want in this tiny house. One of them is a spiral staircase. Doesn't have to be 47 steps, but just like one going up to the upstairs. So that implies that I'm going to need an upstairs in this tiny house. There are these things in Puerto Rico called aloquines, and they are blue cobblestones. And I want something like that in the backyard of this tiny house that comes together in a very simple but somewhat intricate pattern to make sort of like a back patio. I want a beautiful fish tank. I would love to have an octopus in that. Great. I want mosaics in the house, whether it's like the backsplash of the sink or it's somewhere in the bathroom or both. I want these things to make this house that is simple and small very specifically personal to me. Okay. The third picture that I have in this little four set of poster boards has travel on it. And I love the fact that I have 4 out of 5 of those things either accomplished already or will accomplish by February of 2024. And that thrills me. And that means that I'm going to have to go back in there and pick up that last one. The ones that I have accomplished are going to Rio de Janeiro for Carnival, and that's happening in 24. Going to France, to Paris, to eat at the Cedric Gerlet Opera, which I already took care of like a week ago. Another is going to Bali to swim with the whale sharks. And that's where we're a little bit tricky because, yes, I went to Bali, but no, I didn't see the whale sharks. So I got to probably go to Mexico and scoop that up where I can dive with the whale sharks. Amazing. And then the fourth piece of paper are financial goals. And of the 4 of those, the one that I think that I pay attention to the least, the one that I have built healthy habits to meet, the one that I've probably tended the least, and that is going to be that financial goals thing. My habits for that are not as stringent. They're not as disciplined and regimented and structured as the other 3 have been. And that's something that I want to explore in 2024 to make sure that that one moves up a little bit higher on the priority list. Yes, I'm going to travel. Yes, I'm going to work towards making the money. But I think that number 2 and number 4 play a very close part with one another. I want to make sure that I have good habits in place to earn the money that I need in order to get that tiny house. Because you're going to need land and you're going to need building materials. You're going to need plans. I've got ideas. Ideas are wonderful. They need to continue to grow and evolve into plans and methods to meet them and accomplish them. Because dreams are wonderful to have, and I'm always trying to push myself to make loftier and loftier goals. Like, okay, so what happens next? Okay, so how do we meet this? Now that it's on a piece of paper that I stare at every time that I walk into my office, which I love. I love my office space. I think it's so fun. It needs more light. That's another thing I'm going to add to that goal list. I need more light in my office space. I think it's so important to make sure that we continue to set habits and work on those habits so that they help us do what it is we came to do. Okay? Continue dreaming. Hammer those dreams into goals. What does that look like? And hey, we've got to be so, so careful with things like that too. We've got to make sure that we put a dream out there that's big enough that you've got to work to accomplish it. Okay? When I made that list of travel accomplishments, I had no idea it was going to be something that I could accomplish within the year after actually drawing out that plan. When I wrote it out, whenever I put it as something that I see every day, it materialized so quickly, it shocked me. It did. And it also made it so that I'm like, okay, great. So now what you need to do is make sure that you continue to work towards even bigger goals because it wasn't my idea to finish those things within a year. Okay? And whenever I put those things in place and kept looking at them every day, it became easier and clearer for me to make the habits necessary to take the steps needed to accomplish those goals in record time. I don't think we give ourselves quite enough credit whenever we look at these kinds of things as to what it is we want to do with them. We write them down, we make them visible. They're always present, and I think that's really important for things whenever we are thinking about goals and accomplishing those goals. What is it we're doing to make sure that those goals become realities? And then once we accomplish them, we have to fill the tank with a new reality. Because now that these things are new and accomplished and done, well, okay, what's next? Great question. And sometimes you got to push yourself a little bit. And I found myself in that space. And I made myself, I just got back from a trip to Paris, my favorite place. in Paris. There are several, but one of my favorites is the Musée d'Orsay. Now, the Louvre is the one everybody knows. That's where the Mona Lisa lives, and that's wonderful. That's great. It's beautiful, stunning. You can literally glut your soul with beauty from walking into the Louvre. They've got that glass pyramid in the front. They've got, of course, the Mona Lisa. They have unbelievable exhibits on every floor in every room. Stunning, beautiful, amazing. And my favorite's the Musée d'Orsay. It has just as many beautiful things in it. It's a smaller building, I think. I'm just assuming just from the popularity of it. I know that I love going just to the Musée d'Orsay a little bit earlier because I know that it's not always packed with humanity, and they have glorious exhibits there as well. Last time I was there, they had a Rembrandt exhibit. I didn't go. The line was ridiculous. What I love to go see are all the other things, the sculptures in the gallery. Stunning. Absolutely amazing. Plus, there are so many of these little mazy parts that you can find throughout the Musée d'Orsay that makes it almost like a little treasure hunt while you're there. Just because finding all the galleries can provide a little bit of a challenge because they hide them. Now, one of the things that I found this time was a gallery called the Salle des Fêtes, which is basically my French is terrible, but I think it's like the party salons or something of that respect. And I walked in there, and while walking around, I could hear my heels clicking on the floor. I could hear the squeak and how the echo happened. And what I did is I was like, huh, this seems like a really nice room to sing in. And it took me a little while. Like it took me a couple of minutes to kind of work up the guts to actually sing something in this gallery. Number one, my voice was rough because it was early in the morning and I hadn't had much to eat, and it was, any number of things. I'm jet lagged for Jesus because, Bali into Europe, into travel, into this, that, and the other thing. Plus, after the crazy wild get down we had at the wedding in Northern Ireland, my body was a little worse for wear. Singing in that was a beautiful thing. I can't help thinking that the acoustics in there are amazing. And I promise I'm getting to the point. What I want to do is mount a concert in this place in Paris at this favorite museum in the Salle des Fêtes where maybe 150 to 200 people can attend. And I just want to do it, just go for broke for no other reason than just the fact what a wonderfully huge, ridiculously enormous goal. And I've set myself before I turn 50, which is going to need to be by the year 2025. Okay, great. So what are you doing about it, Bullard? Well, I've already sent emails, and they've already let me know that it is not available for the one date that I chose. So now what I'm doing is going back to Google and reaching out to friends of mine who live in France, who know people who have avenues of making this become a reality. And I'm doing it. Here's the thing. You get these lofty goals, and what's the first thing that you do? Well, you've just put one teeny tiny itty bitty feeler out there, and you're like, okay, I did it. Okay, I did it. Okay, great. Okay, yeah. And then you get one refuse, and you're like, well, I made one try, and somebody told me no, so clearly this is not going to happen. Absolutely not. My life is too big and too important and too beautiful to say no after one attempt. So what am I going to do? I'm going to cast my net further. I'm going to continue looking on Google. I'm going to set up the translator on my Google to make sure when something pulls up in French, I know I'm on the right path. And I'm going to make sure it translates into English for me as best as it can. Or I'm going to open up another tab. So whenever I'm looking at this, some of these words are familiar. I'm going to Google Translate it. So I continue to work on making this happen. Why? Because I can. Because I want it. Because my life is too important and too beautiful to just say, well, I tried after one try. That's a habit. And that's a habit I'm going to break. I'm going to remold it into something different. I'm going to make it more grand. I'm going to make it so, no. What I'm going to do is get in that, and I'm going to continue to work because one try is the beginning. A good friend of mine's, he was dating a girl, and she said, no is just the first step on the path to yes. And I love that. Now, I don't know if that's hers originally. I don't really care. Regardless, she's the one who told me. And I was like, that is genius. And I'm going to break old habits. And from those giblets, from those shards and crumbles, I'm going to squeeze that together and I'm going to blast furnace that bitch. And I'm going to make sure that I mold that as it continues to burn and make itself into something more malleable and easily formable. And I'm going to put that into a mold. And I'm going to continue to work that into a tool that I can use to accomplish this goal that I have set for myself, which is performing a concert in the Salle des Fêtes at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, France, before I turn 50. Even talking to you about it right now, it absolutely makes my fingertips tingle. It scares me for no other reason than the fact that I know that if I work as hard at this and put this in front of my eyeballs as something to accomplish in the next 2 years, I will have no choice but to do it. Why does that scare me? And why is fear the thing that wants to stop me? All of the huge, huge, big, good, accomplishable things lie just on the other side of this fear. And why do I know that? Because it's happened to me so many times before. So what I want to do is continue working to push through that fear to say, hey, oh, James, that's going to be so expensive. Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, James, getting your people there is going to be so expensive. Yes, it is. James, what if you enter that room and there's only 11 people in the room? Well, then I will sing my guts out for 11 people. And that is not a problem. That is not an obstacle. What that is just the way that will go. And if only 11 people show up, then there will be more champagne for those 11 people and me and the musicians than we even know what to do with. Fantastic. And what we will do is we will stagger out of the Salle des Fêtes, out of the Musée d'Orsay, into the streets of Paris. And if there are people who want to join us in the revelry, fantastic. That is what we will do. It's so funny to me to think that these teeny little things that we learned so long ago, as simple as habits that can be so easily adjusted to elevate our game to a whole other level, we continue to fall back on what is the norm instead of moving forward into what could be the very best thing that could ever happen to us to meet all of these goals. And I promise you, this is me saying to you, this is a promise I'm making to you now, that I will continue to adjust these habits that I have that were wonderful for me when I was a child, that were wonderful for me at a different era in my life. And I will continue to move forward with them, to be bigger, to operate on a grander scale, because I want to make sure that everybody knows that we all start with the same tools and we continue to sharpen and hone them. We have to replace the handles on some of them. We have to temper some of them with fire in order to make them continually useful. Because after using the same tool for the same job year in and year out, they become dull. Or there are better, more effective tools at our disposal that we just haven't looked for to add to our arsenal, to our tool belt, to our toolbox. I like belt better than box. Whenever you've got a toolbox, you cover those. You can probably hold a few more in a toolbox, but whenever you close the lid, sometimes you forget the tools you've got in there. So I like the idea of a tool belt much more, just from the fact that they're always accessible. I carry those around with me at all times. It's much easier for me to understand whenever something is getting past its point of usefulness, or it's starting to wear and it needs to be sharpened or a new handle put in place. Whenever I'm dealing with a tool belt, I never worry about those things because it's a continual reminder that if something is falling out of repair, that I need to adjust it, I need to hone it so that I continue keeping all of these tools close at hand and ready to help me meet my goals and get the job done that I've put in front of myself. How's that strike us? Hmm? And anytime I use the word you, please understand again, that's a we. Or anytime I use the word I want you to understand that this is open for all of us. This is just where I am right now. And tomorrow may be different. Tomorrow may be similar, still different. And that's great too. It's absolutely wonderful. And I will continue to work on my habits to make sure that they're useful for the goals that I have in mind. And those that aren't, that I will break them down into their smaller components and I will discard that which does not serve. And I will continue to rebuild with the things that do and hopefully add more to them so that these habits continue to be constructive and move me closer to my goal faster. Habits. It's something just as easy as, when do I set my alarm? Do I make my bed? Do I continue to feed myself coffee after I'm trembling? I think that's what I'm dealing with right now. I can feel those things in my fingertips, and I know that part of it is fear of accomplishing this enormous goal that I've set in front of me, because when I do that, I'm going to have to elevate my goal game yet again. And what's going to be bigger than singing a concert in Paris? I don't know. And it's my job as someone who wants to continue to move forward and be bigger and grander and better for both myself and anybody who's watching. I'm going to have to top it. Great. Because after doing that, wow, what else is there? And I don't know. And part of the fun is the fact that it does scare me. And fear is just one of those things. That's just another habit. We've learned it. And now we have to either adjust it, unlearn it, break it down, use the parts that are useful, add something to it to make sure we continue to work in a positive, constructive direction. Because otherwise, it's just going to keep you small and tired and angry. And I don't want to be any of those things. I don't. I deal with a lot of anger and I don't know how to get rid of it. I journal about this often. It's like, please help me release the rage. I try to keep it in a forward, constructive direction, if I'm honest. I don't want to say, how do I stop? No, I want to say, how do I work through this? I don't want to put a blockade there. I don't want to put a box around it. What I want to do is use healthy habits to break it down, to adjust it, to assess it, and then to move past it. There's a lot of stuff out there that can make us really angry. Truth. I know that. I don't try to sugarcoat these things. I don't try to make this something that we all know is just sort of like gilding a lily. The lily is beautiful enough, okay? What we need to do is figure out how to move past that kind of anger. And what are the habits that are going to help me do just that? They're out there. More loving. Knowing whenever I start to get passionate about something, observe it, turn it around, flip it over, look at it from more than one angle. Am I passionate because I love this and I want to show my enthusiasm for it? Am I passionate about this because I'm angry about it and can't understand? And now my first reaction to something like this is to get passionate, angry, loud. That's me. That's 100% me. I need to adjust that habit into understanding when I start to get angry, when I start to get yelly in that general vicinity, I need to breathe. I need to understand that that color of emotion is not necessarily the most helpful when it isn't. And when it is, use it and try to work with what I'm feeling in order to move past it in a way that makes me proud, in a way that makes me happy, in a way that feels constructive. And it feels like it's building up instead of tearing down or hurting, because that's really what it is. It's just pain, and it's making its way out of the body with just as much damage as it can. And what I need to do is just sort of shift that color, that emotion, into something that is more constructive, because I promise you, almost every emotion that you feel that can be construed as not constructive can be worked into a hue, into a feeling, an emotional spectrum tinted with whatever. Sorry, that one got just a little bit away from me. that can be adjusted so that it can be constructive and so that it can build towards accomplishing your goals, towards getting to where you want to be, to being a stronger, more capable human being that not only moves along your path, but also helps others move along theirs. As always, thank you so, so much for joining us. I appreciate the time we get to spend together because there are things that I need to put into the world that help me deal with them better. I hope we have an opportunity to converse about these kind of things. I talk a lot and I talk quickly. Sometimes I'm working on it, but I'm hoping that there were significant spaces in this conversation that I'm having with you right now that you could talk back, that you could, yeah, or no, or whatever it is that makes you feel included and better because we spent this time together. If this is your first episode with us, welcome. Gosh, we're so glad you're here. If it's not, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back to enjoy another episode of Radical Joy. Gosh, we're always so grateful to have you. If you are the review type, I am. Whenever I experience something that I know could benefit from my review on Yelp or Google reviews or Facebook or wherever you find it, if you've enjoyed it to the point where you want to tell other people about it, we're always so grateful that you want to share that. Please leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform where you're listening. Let us know. There are ways to reach us through the notes in this listening platform. Let us know that you did that for us because we'd love to send you a token of our appreciation, a sticker, or we're working on some other swag because we're coming up on a year and we're so happy that you're here and we hope that what we're doing here at Radical Joy is helpful for you. More than anything, please know that we're grateful that you listen and we're grateful that you share, and more than anything, we love you so much. Love y'all. Have a great week. Thank you for joining us again in this moment of radical joy. Let me know what you want to talk about. I rarely run out of things to say. So if there's something on your mind or heart, I want to hear from you. Don't forget, there is no shame in joy. I am not a therapist or a medical professional. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please call 911. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of James or CLW Studios. Please consult with your therapist or seek one in your area if you're experiencing mental health symptoms. Anything in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Learn more about James and CLW Studios. Follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to leave a review, and hey, we'll send you a sticker. Just send a screenshot and let us know where you want it sent. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday for another dose of Radical Joy. Love y'all.